Welcome to the Mental Health Takeaways podcast. On our show tonight, we've got the fabulous Matt Knibb, co-host of the show, on as a guest, talking about a full range of things. We're going to touch on some different feelings once we've got through his takeaway. We're going to talk about things like loneliness and frustration. We're going to talk about serenity and eagerness and some of Matt's experiences that he is openly going to share with us and talk to us about, to generate some more fantastic takeaways that you can hopefully apply to your day-to-day life as well. So it's an interesting show. Matt shares some really good insights, and we hope you enjoy the rest of the... Knibbo, welcome to the show.
Hello, mate.
Thanks for coming.
Well, like I said, like I didn't say, because this isn't the second take at all.
We're going to have a third take now.
I was going to be here anyway. This is half my podcast. I'm always going to be here. You're always going to be here. But it's just sometimes we're going to have guests as well.
Yeah,
but it's a pleasure to be here, Brad. Thank you.
Good. Thanks for absolutely ruining the intro. So we're going to kick this off in an easy way. We're going to talk about our takeaway. We're then going to get into our main questions, our would you rathers, and then we're going to finish off with some dessert questions just to kind of sum everything up, get some wise words of advice from you and possibly even myself. So yeah, we're going to jump straight in. We are going to order that takeaway. Okay. So
okay.
We're going to order you that takeaway. You can have anything you want. What are you ordering?
Okay, so I've put a tiny bit of thought into this, and the thought is around how and why I order what I order. So I really think if I had free reign, I would be getting into something like a Chinese or a pizza. And a lot of people don't seem to rate a pizza takeaway. I absolutely love takeaway pizza, and because not so many people love a pizza takeaway, there have been a few times when, over the last couple of years, I've been a bit of a wanderer, and I've occupied a couple of different spaces. And yeah, sometimes if a weekend on my own, I think, yeah, I'll have a pizza. But for the purposes of this evening, I will be going with fish and chips, please, Bradley.
Just throwing a totally new one. Never even mentioned fish and chips a minute ago.
Have you heard of fish and chips? It's a quite it's a revolutionary type of cuisine, really.
No, we have chips and fish down here.
I see. Mate, up here we've got it even worse. Genuinely, there's a place not too far away called Chish and Fips. So never mind your fish and chips or your chips and fish. We've got chips, shish and fips. Well, I don't know.
This is enough to ruin anybody's mental health already.
Yeah, isn't it? Stay tuned, folks. So I'll go fish and chips. My order is scampi. Because if you're going to go unhealthy, you might as well go as far down the unhealthy road as you can possibly go. Scampi and chips, nice big pot of curry sauce, and that's me. But the reason I'm going fish and chips is because I am fairly new in my house. Fairly recently bought a house. I probably wouldn't have a takeaway on my own, but absolutely I would have a takeaway with my kids here. They love fish and chips. And so it's the takeaway that we can all get involved in. My daughter, when I talk about unhealthy, my daughter will go for the deep fried cheese option. Then my little boy he's mad for fish fingers. So he'll have the fish fingers, which obviously that pains me massively because we've got fish fingers at home. But yeah, shop fish fingers.
I feel that pain because my little boy's exactly the same. Loves the sausage from the fish and chip shop. I don't think there's any meat in that sausage, but he loves that one. And I've said before, we've got sausages at home. In fact, we've got chips at home. We could literally do it all for a fraction of the cost. Yeah. But you're right. Fish and chip shop is better, isn't it? It's just better. And this is a takeaway.
Tell you what,
treating yourself, treating the kids.
On the subject of both economizing and top-level cuisine, I am absolutely not above ordering too many chips, keeping them in the fridge, use them like oven chips the next day. They're amazing. Like, whack them back in the oven, kind of cook them again until, obviously they're all hot. They're only potatoes. They're not going to kill you, probably. Don't take my advice on that one, folks. But yeah, heating them back up the next day, but then cooking them enough, not just so they get warm, but so that they crisp up again. Never mind triple cooked chips with lobster thermidor. Chip shop chips done up again in the oven the next day. They're banging.
Nice. I think I've got my takeaway already. That's it. That's it done already.
That's our learning point from tonight's
let's
show.
let's not bother with any more of this show. I think you've nailed it in
No.
the starter questions.
Okay, well, let's say goodnight to all our listeners. Bye, Brad's mum. Bye, my mum.
You actually put my
And
mum
we're
off
off.
with that offensive question you asked me the other week. Anyway, let's move along. So you got
Soz.
your fish and chips, or
Yeah, man.
scampi and chips as it is for you. Ordering
Yeah.
for the kids as well. So we've got the deep fried cheese coming. We got the fish fingers coming. Not forgetting the
Making me
curry
hungry.
sauce as well. This is good. So we've got
Big pot.
everybody there. Is it always the same? If you were to order with the kids and do a takeaway, you always going for the same thing, or do you like to try new things?
I mean, it's all a new thing. So I'm in a new house. To give you a very brief overview, their mum and I broke up nearly 3 years ago. Since then, we've been through all the official legal side of we're officially legally divorced, and I've had my equity out of our old family home, and we're all just on completely new paths. And so I completed the purchase of the house that I'm in now maybe 6 weeks ago. And so it's been a real fit for me to try to get the kids settled in here and getting it feeling like home. Like I saw a lot of them, but previously when I had them where I was living, and I was in with my mum. So that was different and new for them, but they got used to that over about 2.5 years. And now I'm in here, and it's different and new for them. It's better. They've got their own bedrooms. It's a lovely house. It's little, but it's lovely. They love being here, but I'm trying to get them, I suppose, acclimatized and comfortable here. So I'm not in the mood to be making any great changes to their like little favorite routine. So if they fancy the same thing from the fish and chip shop, the little fishy's kids meal, fried mozzarella sticks, and daddy having his scampi and chips, then that's what we're doing. When I'm not with them, I'd be far more adventurous and try different things. And I like go because they do all kinds of different pies down at the fish and chip shop, and I don't mind trying that because when is a pie ever bad? Like I very deliberately had the vegetarian pies down there in the past and thought, this is lush. It's a pie. Pie's never bad. But no, when I'm with them, I kind of keep it samey, just to get them feeling comfortably is the mission.
Yeah, okay, cool. And that I guess is interesting in itself because it's kind of like you on your own is quite the kind of adventurous and wanting to seek out something else, whereas you and the kids is very much like actually I want stability, I want comfortable, I want calm for everybody.
It's almost like trying to remember that it's a long old road as well. Like, of course, I want my kids to have a varied and broad palette. But if I stick a Vindaloo in front of them and go, try that, at this stage, that's the wrong thing to be doing. It's going to put them off
have you tried
for
that?
longer.
Because you don't know that unless you've tried it. Might love it.
Do you know what? I don't know that. I think that runs the risk of me trying to sort of force things a bit too soon. And I can recognise that I've done that as a parent in the past. I've been like, let's get these stabilisers off. And then they fall over, they smash their knee in. And I'm like, oh, Daddy, I don't want to get on my bike. I kind of see why you did sort of smash your knee to pieces last time. So it is all about realising this is a long old road. You don't need to force them through anything they're not ready for. Just kind of enjoy that moment and take life for where it is at the moment rather than needing to be somewhere else.
Yeah, cool. Nice. I like that. Okay. So I'm going to dial that in. I'm gonna call up the takeaway. We're going to get that ordered, and we're going to do the rest.
Place, by the way. Let's give Robbie's place a shout out. Robbie's place down at the bottom of the hill from me.
Nice.
Good fish and chips.
Is the guy that works there, owns there? Is he called Robbie?
Brad, how do you work this stuff out? You're a genius.
Wow. It was just a hunch. It was a hunch. Okay, cool. Right, that is dialed in. We're going to do the rest of the show in the time it takes for your scampi and chips, deep fried cheese, fish fingers, and curry sauce to get here. So, without further ado, let's get into the main questions, the really serious stuff. Okay, so we're going into our would you rathers. Okay, now I've had two that I've been debating, and I thought I was going to go one, but I've made a last minute change to the other one. So I would like to know, in this
my seat here, Brad.
important mental health takeaways podcast show opener, would you rather never close your eyes again or never close your mouth again?
Would I rather never close my eyes? Can I sleep with open eyes?
If we're gonna have
Sleep's
to,
massive to me.
gonna have to.
Do you mean gonna have to?
Well,
Some
you,
people just get sleep deprived and die. Would I rather never be able to close my eyes again, or never be able to close my mouth again? What's the downside? Hang on. You know, you said you weren't going to go X-rated. I think I'm going to take it.
you're gonna
there.
go to that place again.
Well, yeah, it's
I've,
kind of
I've promised my mother that she'd be able to listen again, and you're gonna take that away from her now.
I like. I don't have Tourette's. Absolutely, I don't. But I've got swear words at the front of my mind because I'm thinking if one of us swears in this episode, then we get to check the little box on Spotify saying, "Oh, there's explicit content in here." And I just want to say rude words, but I reckon you'll tell me off. Right. So can I? I was going to say, right. So kissing. If I can never do a closed mouth kiss ever again. But I can never like a friendly.
You can't. You can't. No, it's all open mouth from
Maybe
here on in.
like. Thankfully, I'm just thinking through. I don't think I have any elderly female relatives. Like, there's my mum, but I don't have any like grandparents left, and I haven't got any great aunts or anything like that. So there's no danger of like me coming in with open mouth for a kiss. And I suppose you could just do like open mouthed side kisses. Like, do you know what? The reason I'm talking about this is because it was only last night I was reminded how important my mother is to me. She invited me over for burger and chips. God, man. She does an absolutely banging homemade burger and chips.
Nice.
And she knew I didn't have anything on last night, so I went over there for burger and chips. And it was just really lovely. Having lived with her for 2.5 years when I had nowhere else to go, she was an absolute rock. And it was lovely to be there last night because I hadn't seen her properly for a couple of weeks. I hadn't spent some proper time with her. But then again, I don't think I gave her like a peck on the cheek to say goodbye. But I'd like to have the option. God, never be able to close my mouth or never be able to close my eyes. If I can sleep with open eyes, you know those VR headsets?
Yeah.
Because I was thinking you could just get an eye mask, but an eye mask is like on your eyes, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I can't imagine anything less comfortable because that's going to be like in your open eye. But if you had a VR headset, am I overthinking?
You've created some space. I'm going to hazard a guess and say yes. I think you are overthinking it, but I don't know.
Right.
The thing that struck me is dryness.
Yeah,
on both fronts.
Dryness is going to be a problem.
And also, I'm thinking, and I know you like to get out on your bike, and I'm thinking, well, either way, it's a problem because if your eyes are open, then you're going to get lots of flies in there. But also, if your mouth's open, you're going to catch lots of flies in there.
Yeah, so what I've already done in my head is I thought, well, I'm going to carry like a little plant sprayer around with me.
Yeah.
And whichever bit is drying out, I can spray that part, like my mouth or my eyes. Obviously, if I'm spraying my eyes, then people are thinking I'm crying. Then I have to explain
experience
that.
of this?
I feel like I'm ready for it. I feel like I've thought through all the options of both permanently open eyes and permanently open mouth. Hang on, I eat. I can't eat with my mouth shut, can I?
Yeah. Well,
I'm going to go permanently open eyes. I'm going to go for the permanently open eyes because I think I could carry it off.
Nice. I'm going to take you back to the kissing. You know, let's say you meet an incredible lady and you go for the kiss, and then you're like, those eyes wide open.
Yeah, no, that's the point, and I know exactly what my friends would do as well. Should I be fortunate enough to have another female life partner, at any point of kissing her, absolutely no, they would get in my eye line, and so it's like I'm looking at them whilst I'm kissing her.
Yeah, awkward.
It's awkward, and probably a lot of them would push their female friends into my eye line. Like, Knibbo, why are you looking at your girlfriend? Not that any of us are young enough to have girlfriends, but more like wife of 25 years. But I think the eyes
You're sticking with the eyes. Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
Okay, so we're going with you're going to have the eyes permanently open, but you can at least you can close your mouth. At least you can kiss your mother respectfully. That's important.
yes,
Okay, cool.
whilst looking at someone else.
Right. Well, now that we're getting into this, I mean, I don't think it'll get any tougher than that, but we have got a few more would you rather's. We're going to start off. Our next one is going to be just looking at a little bit more of negative emotions, but same principle. Would you rather? So, I want to know: would you rather feel loneliness or frustration?
Brothers, you've hit two then, haven't you? I'm going to deal with the second one first, and I absolutely fucking loathe. Oh, there we go, swear words. I absolutely loathe frustration. That feeling of could have done better, could have done it differently. Previous you could have helped out current you a lot more than he has. Like the whole, also like losing keys and phone and whatever else, because it's only yourself to blame. Shit like that. Like when I get frustrated with myself, that's the top end of frustration. Like I touched on already, I'm a parent, and it's only natural for parents to get frustrated with their kids because you've told them 4,912 times, don't do that. And then you go and see them, and like that is like going in the road with your eyes closed and your hair on fire. And they're like, "Oh, I'm going to my eyes closed, my hair on fire again." Um, so that's frustrating. But I don't think there's any worse frustration than the frustration of feeling like you fucked it up. So like, as you mentioned, I'm a teacher, and last school year finished with me thinking I can't finish the year like this again. It was just this disorganized jumble of I fucking hated it. So frustration, not good. However, with frustration, there is that other side to it, isn't there? Of you're in control of it, or you've got some control over it, in that you can. What I've tried to do in the past is to think like, listen, Matt, you getting angry at not being able to find your keys, or you getting angry at yourself because of whatever the reason is, it's not helping the situation right now. So you've got to try to let that subside and deal with what's right in front of you. So I suppose you can calm yourself down from frustration, but it's harder to stop yourself being lonely. That is something that I'm now dwelling on. And I am somebody, I do like my own company. I enjoy spending time by myself, but obviously there's a limit, and there comes a point where you think you'd much rather not be lonely, or not. Oh, sorry, you'd much rather not be on your own. Like I'm the type of guy that will very happily, as a single man, I will very happily. Like a great day for me would be taking myself to a cafe, sitting down and writing my journals with a nice little coffee and maybe a little brunch, and then taking myself for a walk and doing that personally, maybe with my headphones on, and then taking myself to the cinema and go and watch a film, just me. I would very happily do a day like that and not feel lonely in the slightest. But obviously there does come a point where you're, like I said, my kids are here nearly 50% of the time, and soon it will be 50% of the time. But the times when they're not here, over 2 weeks, there's a point of a space of 5 days where they're not here. And I hate those times.
Yeah,
I absolutely hate those times. I lose. Go on.
I think that is something that's going to really resonate with, people that have gone through that separation process and that kind of working out of how time is spent and all of those horrible bits that you have to go through. I can relate to that, as I'm sure lots of people, listening will. That long period, and obviously often it's worked out over a 2-week cycle because we've got a 7-day week, and so there is that spell. And I remember having to get used to that, and that's tough, isn't it? And that loneliness really hits hard then.
Yeah. And for me, it's that loneliness. We're going a bit deep here, but it's that loneliness that almost figuratively feels like falling into a whirlpool, because the kids need and benefit from and just naturally come with routine. If nothing else, they've got a bedtime, and even if on the weekend you push that bedtime back a little bit, they've got a bedtime. Now I'm an adult, and I probably should have a time by which I'm thinking must be in bed by that time, but I don't adhere to that, especially not on weekends. Like if I'm watching something on the telly and I find myself staying up till 11, 11:30, 12, 12:30, and then I don't know why midnight's like the magic number for me, but if I go past midnight, I'm thinking, you dickhead, why aren't you in bed already? But with the kids here, there's that lovely structure of, right, you're in bed by 8, you're upstairs and in your bed with the lights out by 8:30, I'm washing up, I'm sorting the house out, then I'm going up to bed. Like, they give me that structure. And then without them, there's no structure. So it's almost like there's no walls, there's no limits to what I can do. But because of that, I feel a bit lost in this big open field. Whereas actually, sometimes I'd rather be in a smaller world and know, right, I've got this boundary here, this boundary here, this boundary here. I need to operate within those parameters. But when they're not here and there's no parameters within which I need to operate, it's so much easier to feel lonely and lost and like I've got all day to do this thing. And I end up not doing that thing because I had all day to do it. Because if I had 45 minutes to get that thing done, I'm getting that thing done in 45 minutes, no problem. So that's the loneliness side of things. But I suppose, frustration or loneliness, would I rather feel? Do you know what? I am going to say I'd rather feel the loneliness because I think that's less instantly corrosive. I mean, you might know more about this, about the brain science of the hormones and the neurotransmitters that get released when someone's angry and frustrated. I kind of pair up anger and frustration. Feel very similar for me. So I think that the hormones that get released, or the neurotransmitters that get released when you're lonely, I think are less instantly corrosive. Loneliness is less instantly recognizable. But I think if you do recognize loneliness, you can also take steps to be less lonely. Different groups of mates, I think this will be a big theme for a lot of our listeners. Different groups of mates are different when it comes to communication. The friends that I've been friends with for the very longest, my old school friends from when I was a teenager, they're pathetic on text. Like, you can't get a reply out of any of them. And actually that can make me feel quite lonely. Like, why the fuck? Like, these are the guys who absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, if you were out somewhere and if there was a spot of bother, everyone would pile in. No one would think twice. If one of them came to me and said, Knibbo, me and the missus have split up, I need somewhere to sleep, without question, you live here for as long as you need to live here. Can I get a fucking reply to a WhatsApp? No way. Absolutely not. That is you're expecting way too much. Give you my house for 6 months? Yeah, no problems, mate. Move a mountain for each other? Absolutely, no question. Send a meme on a birthday? No, not happening. So that can contribute towards feelings of loneliness. But then I've got other groups of mates that operate in different ways. But I just think a lot of men have those mates that are just, where are you? Like, on a daily basis. And actually, I'm really fortunate that as a single man now, I've got a couple of friends that are what you call women. I think I'm saying that word right.
Oh, that sounds risky.
Yeah, I know. Friends with girls, and they're a totally different kettle of fish. Like, actual friends, but I wake up to a message from them. Like, I'm on a group with two girls. I wake up to messages from them. I get messages from them all the way through the day, and they're always talking, always contributing. And then maybe they're not the same level of closeness. And actually, I feel like probably over time, one or two of those might drift away. But I don't know that they're lifelong friends. But on a daily basis, they're right proper close. So what I'm saying is, I think I'd choose loneliness because I think it's less corrosive in the initial instance. You have to be quite skilled at recognizing, wait a minute, I'm feeling lonely here, and I need to do something about it. I'm quite a proactive person, and if I'm feeling away, I'll think, right, I've got to take action about that. And I think that's a massive mental health thing. So I think of male suicide because we're banging that demographic of people that very sadly end up choosing to take their life by suicide. I think of that as being the sort of thing that can just sneak up on you without you really realizing it, unless you're paying attention, unless you're kind of aware of the fact. Much like I once went, and I'm absolutely certain it was a squiffy result. Years ago, Liverpool were playing Man City around Christmas, and I'm a Liverpool fan. And I had a meal in the pub whilst watching it. It was a really fatty, greasy meal. And then the next day, I had to go to my doctor's for a cholesterol test, and it came back saying, "You've got high cholesterol." And I was thinking, that's madness. Like, I wouldn't have thought that my normal diet, because I rarely eat meat and things like that, I wouldn't have thought that my normal diet would have generated high cholesterol. But anyway, she said, and I was like, well, what's the risks of that? And she more or less said, well, like, you could just drop dead. Like, and I went to Dr. Google, which is the worst thing you can do. So I kind of realized that high cholesterol puts strain on your heart, and the risks are you could not see it coming, and all of a sudden it could take you. And actually, I kind of think of suicide in the same kind of way, as like you could not see it coming, and all of a sudden it could have a hold on you, and then you can't get out that hold. So I very much keep an eye on my own mental health. And so if I do start to feel unhappy, lonely, frustrated, whatever it is, then I make damn sure I take action. So with the cholesterol thing, my diet went incredible all of a sudden, and I think it was maybe 12 weeks later or something, I had another test, and my cholesterol was like way into the excellent zone. That's because I took proactive steps, and it's the same with my mental health. If I get a little test result, i.e. like a self-test result, you're feeling lonely, Matt, that's when I need to start taking steps and doing something about it, because your mental health can just kind of creep up on you from nowhere. All of a sudden it's got hold of you, and you can't get out, and you can't fight it. So you've got to start fighting it when it's small.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd go with loneliness. I think the short-term feelings of loneliness are less corrosive than the short-term feelings of frustration and stress. And I do think actually there are proactive steps that I could take. Other people might be in a different position, but I think there's steps that I could take to feel less lonely, and I'd be able to take those steps.
Yeah, that's cool. I think it's an interesting one, because actually, even when you were talking about frustration, both of those scenarios, before you sort of summed up quite nicely there, that actually that idea of kind of recognizing the feeling and taking action, even before you summarized that, you had touched on that about frustration. You said about being able to let it go and let the feelings subside and then take that action. So I think that's a really interesting point. I like that you kind of talked about friends as well, because I think often when we think about loneliness, we think about it from a partner point of view. But actually recognizing, actually we can experience loneliness in relation to our friends. And the girls and boys thing, again, is that part of this kind of thing? Is it, the reason for this podcast, just how you describe that dialogue of text messages, like with your female friends, there's that constant dialogue and chat. And is that because they just, you're saying they won't shut up?
I dread to think, I don't dread to think at all, but the number of messages that I've exchanged in this group, or I've received in this group, there's me and two girls, women, both about my age. Today, there must have been 60 plus messages between the three of us. And I've sent maybe 5 of those. I like voice noting a lot more than typing out a message now. But yeah, it's permanent, and it stops any of us feeling too lonely.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think guys in general are
so maybe it's not just about mental health that men don't communicate as much. Maybe it's like everything. I think about the male groups, WhatsApp groups that I'm in, we can have long periods of quiet where actually nobody's putting anything on there, nobody's saying anything, and then all of a sudden we'll have a busy period. I've got another sort of group chat that actually I don't contribute too much, just my old school friends who are still all up in Newcastle, and so there's a constant flow of dialogue there. But they're up there, so they're communicating and living and going about things, but they communicate fairly well, I think. I think it's just an interesting difference.
I think some of it is my specific group of old school friends, amongst whom mental health is not absolutely, it's not booming. It's not as good as it could be across the group. And those people are not they're not putting themselves forward to a place where they could be having regular daily connection with person. And that's what's important, isn't it? It's about connections. I
Yeah,
follow
yeah,
the Johan Hari philosophy that our mental health is about connections, connections to ourselves, connections to our past, connections to nature, connections to other people. And it's an opportunity for connection that actually that group never takes, like not just rarely takes, just never takes, man.
yeah.
Um,
And I think
and
in actual fact as well, kind of that idea of connection helps in both of those scenarios. It helps with the loneliness, but actually it can also probably help with the frustration.
how so?
I just think in terms of actually, if I'm frustrated and I pick up the phone and I have a bit of a rant, and then I maybe get a different perspective on it, that can help
And you
with
know what
that
else?
frustration
Actually,
as well.
it could well connect, or it could well link to that idea that if you can, in that moment, connect to future you, and you're going to be like, is future you going to really have a whole heap of negative consequences because you're going to have to spend an extra 45 seconds looking for your car keys? No. Future you is going to be absolutely fine because you can't currently find your car keys. Chill out. It's
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
be all right.
yeah,
Yeah, so maybe connecting with that.
yeah.
But
Cool.
yeah, I think connections are massively important.
So you over those two, you're going loneliness. Let's move on.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so yeah, we're gonna flip now to something a little bit more positive. So still our
Hey,
would you rather's. So would you rather feel serene or would you rather feel eager?
Radders. Would I rather feel serene or eager? Good feelings again, Bradley. You know what? I think I'll go with serene. And the reason for that is it links back to something I said previously. So I'm a busy guy. I got to teach 5 days a week at a pretty demanding setting. It's a great setting, but there's no denying that the work is pretty demanding. I work with children with additional needs. And I've got the mental health business on the side when it comes, and that's my thing. Like I'm not employed to do that, so I have to kind of decide, much like you, I have to decide like, am I going to try to make my own website? Am I going to generate some social media interest? Am I going to, and the podcast as well? Am I going to learn how to use this piece of software and the next piece of software? So there's all these like jobs that are in my head, which means like when I do get a little bit of time to myself, I rarely properly relax because my mind's thinking, do this other thing, do this other thing, do this other thing. And I'm not behind like with my work and anything else. Like I'm time pressured, but I'm not behind with anything. There'll be school reports to write soon and I'll get them done just in time, but they'll be done in time. But what I struggle with is that idea of that you've got half a day, just chill out, just do something
Yeah,
that relaxes you and enjoys you. Something that enjoys you, something that relaxes you and that you enjoy, and that brings you peace. And I very rarely feel that peace. I like that eagerness. I don't have any problems feeling that. Like I'm always, let's do the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. Let's go go go. And I love feeling that too. Don't get me wrong. I love the sense of challenge and the sort of that sort of clapping your hands and rubbing them together. Right, let's go. Um, that's a great feeling, and I enjoy feeling that personally and professionally and in relationships. That feeling of like, yeah, we got a thing to go at here. You know, like I ride mountain bikes a little bit. I haven't ridden in a while, but that feeling of being at the top of the trail and being like, we're all ready to hit it. Let's go. I love that, but that doesn't actually elude me at the moment. Whereas the feeling of serenity, I think at present, and I don't know if it's a theme that will resonate with any of our listeners, but that idea of I've actually got 2, 3, 4 hours where there's no one telling me there's something that needs to be done. You can sit down and chill out, Matt. I can't sit down and chill out.
yeah, yeah.
There's
Well,
always like a little job that's. nagging away at me.
It resonates with me, and probably some of my friends that I can think about as well. So I think it will resonate with people. I'm very similar. I'm not good at sitting and chilling out, and I kind of want to be maxing out a lot of the time. And it's actually
And
it's probably go on.
What I find that I'll end up then wasting that time, because let's say I've got 2 hours, 2.5 hours, where there's nothing happening. I'll feel bad about the idea of thinking I am going to put on a movie and I'm going to sit down and watch that movie. That feels like too big an indulgence.
Yeah.
So instead, I'll spend 2.5 hours wasting time.
Yeah.
Like 2.5 hours, I'll be on my phone for a little bit of it. I'll be doing productive procrastination of just doing like menial little jobs that don't need doing. Whereas I could take the opportunity to just zone out from it, just tune out.
Yeah. Do you think there's an avoidance
it feels like
there
too big
sometimes
an indulgence
in people? Do you think there's I know, clients that I work with in terms of hypnotherapy often don't want time on their own when they start seeing me. It's like a thing that they don't. In fact, I can think of a client that I'm working with at this point in time who would never watch a movie, would never have that time, because that's when their mind would start thinking about stuff that they didn't want to think about. There was an avoidance there. And they do now. That was one of their sort of successes a few weeks ago. They were like, I watched a movie, But do you think there's an avoidance there sometimes in men? Actually, we're kind of programmed to, to be busy and to do jobs and to think about the next thing. Or do you think that's just us?
Quite possibly. One of the highest achieving men I know, his ex-partner bought him as a birthday treat a flotation tank experience. And he absolutely hated it. So he was basically locked in the darkness with his own thoughts.
Right.
He said it's one of the worst things he's ever experienced, because that sort of thing was hell for him.
Yeah.
As much as it's supposed to be a relaxing experience, like the ultimate relaxing experience, where your body's just supported by this like really saline water, and you can just totally switch off. He's like, I could not switch off. His head is just whirring on like, what's the next thing I've got to do? What's the next thing I've got to do? I think possibly there's a thing there that just tells people, men, like, you can't switch off. You can't stop. Maybe it's why I stay up till midnight a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Because I'm feeling guilty. Like I'm in this house that I've decorated myself, and I know there's a corner where the paint meets in my son's bedroom that could do with touching up, and like that bugs me. But to get it done, I'd have to pull his bed away from the wall, and I'd have to cover his new carpet, and like, he loves his bedroom. He fully loves it. He doesn't care one bit about that the paint in the corner could do with touching up. But it's another little thing in my head of like, oh, you don't rest until that's done. Don't rest until this is done.
And I guess that's where that kind of serene, actually, if I could have some serene and not feel guilt and just actually embrace that. And I think that is something that we have to work towards. A little while ago, again, I put a little social media post on in terms of my hypnotherapy stuff, because I just had an evening to myself, and I didn't know what to do. And I was like, oh, shall I go to the gym? And again, that guilt of, well, if, I've got a night on my own, why wouldn't I go to the gym? Because it's a missed opportunity if I don't. But I made a conscious decision. I was like, actually, I'm going to cook myself something nice, and I'm going to watch. I can't remember whether I stuck the rugby on or I stuck a film on, but it was a conscious decision that that's what I was going to do. But I had to work hard at it, actually, to get that kind of calm. And even when I had it, there was that little bit of like, oh, I'll just have a look on my phone. And then I'm like, no, what are you going on your phone for? Like, this is your chill out time. Stop it.
You know full well that the recording of tonight's podcast was semi-delayed because I had to dash to the supermarket ahead of a weekend with the kids. And then I was just finishing up, just coming out of the frozen aisle, thinking, like, what I've done there is I've thought about what will the kids want to eat this weekend. And I haven't thought at all, one bit, about what will I want to eat this weekend. I've just loaded up with what the kids will want to eat, and I'll get that, and I'll pick at whatever. I'll either have I'll either like make myself the same as they're having, or if they're eating like tea way earlier than I fancy tea, then I'll probably have their leftovers and reheat that for my tea. And actually, that basic idea, that's why going over to my mum's for a burger last night was so good, because I very rarely really cook myself a meal. It's not because I can't cook. I made
Yeah,
a banging mac and cheese the other day, but I made a mac and cheese for the kids and me. Like there was enough in
yeah.
it for me as well. But I will very rarely cook a proper meal for myself just because I'll think it's an indulgence.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
when it's just you think, I can't even think, like, what was the last thing? I'll bang out some noodles and put some spring rolls with it and some veg. Or, like,
Mm.
it's not really
I mean,
cooking, though. It's not.
It's made me think of it like a really like this is very stereotypical, but I'm going to say it anyway because it's about us talking. In terms of it's what we're talking about is self-care to a degree, isn't it? And actually, we're talking about just making a nice meal for ourselves, and that being too much that we wouldn't do it because we prioritize kids or partners or like whoever. We don't do that. Whereas, I know from, being at work today and, one person was like, oh yeah, I'm going off to get my nails done because that's a treat. And one person's going off and they're like, I've got some time. I'm going to go and have a sunbed. I think probably that's something where actually we probably fall short of women sometimes as well. Like they're much better at doing those things, that some of those self-care routines. And yeah, part of it might be about actually because I'm doing something because I want to look nice, but I think there's a relaxing, there's a like actually taking some time out. Like where do men get those sort of
I
self-care
agree
things?
entirely. I agree entirely. I think the gym is a place that men go for self-care, but likewise, gym. Like I'm coming from a point of an employed, so. When you're an employed parent, if you're going to the gym, then that's costing you money and it's costing you time. And those are two of the things that you don't necessarily have. And so it can feel like a self-indulgence. And it's that stupid thing, isn't it? Of like thinking, well, no. I won't address my own needs. I won't care for myself. I won't put the oxygen mask on myself when they drop down from the plane. But then if you don't do that, you can't help the people around you.
That's it.
And also what I think is one of the things I'm actually really conscious of is how I operate as an example for my kids. And what I'm realizing in this conversation is if I'm not setting an example of someone who cares for themselves and looks after themselves, there's a risk that my kids see that and think adults don't/shouldn't care for themselves.
Yeah,
they should only
absolutely.
care for other people around them. And that's not the example I want to set for them. I want them to be adults that think and feel like, no, I need to look after myself. It's imperative I look after myself.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing for parents, isn't it? Because we always put kids first, and then. But you're absolutely right, and the amount of times that I say that to clients as well. Actually, you've got to look after you, because if you look after you, you've got capacity for everybody else. If you don't look after you, you've got no capacity to help anybody else, and you're going down as well. So yeah, that's cool. That's so that calm, that kind of self-care, I think that's really good. And there was loads of things in that conversation. I think that's a great piece of advice, actually. Cool. Well, we're gonna move on to our dessert questions. I want you to think now. You have got a minute. Okay, just 1 minute with 8-year-old you, okay? And then when your minute's up with 8-year-old you, 18-year-old you is going to come in. What advice would you give to 8-year-old you, and what advice would you give to 18-year-old you? You've only got 1 minute with each of them.
Right, I'll be as brief as I can then. So 8-year-old you, and it's so stupid, isn't it? Because it would... This is absolutely the advice that I should be taking now anyway, is, mate, don't worry. Like, it's going to go great. Because I can remember not necessarily being massively happy as an 8-year-old. Like, I was pretty happy in myself. I wasn't like one of those kids that was down in the mouth all the time. But I can remember worrying a bit and worrying about how things were going to turn out for me. And, like, I know it's mad for an 8-year-old, but worrying about girls and worrying about popularity. I didn't look like the other kids. I was
still had the
I was
beard.
bigger than the other. Yeah, I'm not joking. I started shaving at 10. So it's a true story. I started shaving at 10, and I was not at 8 years old, obviously, but in primary school, in year 6, I was the tallest person in my primary school. Not the tallest pupil, I was the tallest person. I was I was taller than all the teachers. The librarian used to come and get me to get stuff down from the shelf, and then I stopped growing. So I was 5'9" in year 6, and I'm 5'10" now. Mad, isn't it? But yeah, as an 8-year-old, I can remember thinking that I just worried too much, and it was mad. You know, I had a bit of a belly on me, and I thought that things like physical pursuits, ironically, weren't for me. But then I just kind of grew into myself, and I was fine.
Cool.
So yeah, I tell
Okay.
him, don't worry, mate. It's all going to be fine. You're going to have a great time.
That's good because he's off now. Don't worry.
Yeah.
18-year-old you's just walked in now.
I'm caught between two pieces of advice to share with 18-year-old me. The first would be just don't be a twat. Not that 18-year-old me was a massive twat, but he was a bit of a twat. But you just don't know yourself at 18, and there is no knowing yourself at 18. It's a whole new world for you. I often think sometimes about like professional sports people that not only do they have to deal with this whole kind of I've got a man's body all of a sudden, like where did this come from?
Yeah,
And then they get handed massively lucrative contracts on top
yeah,
of that.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
how the hell do they keep their heads balanced? But yeah, as an 18-year-old, I was a tit, and I thought that being loud and brash and probably unkind sometimes to some of the people that I'm still friends with now. I thought that was it. I thought that was cool, and so yeah, I would tell him, don't be a dick, but also don't be afraid. That there were times. So between the ages of 8 and 18, actually, there was a big life event for me, which was that my my father went bankrupt. We lost the house that was like it just got repossessed, taken away from us. And so I think that gave me a bit of an awareness of money and financial situation and how that can impact on you. And so then as an 18-year-old, I was like, I could be a bit of a dick and I could be a bit brash, but I was still really scared of spending all my money and
Mm.
wasting money in particular. I just felt like that, like a need to sort of white knuckle any money that you got given. You just had to hold on to as tight as you could. And actually, you probably missed out on a lot of experiences because even things like, I mean, I know it's slightly later than 18, but things like Freshers Week, I was like, well, I'm not wasting my money on snake bite and black. Um, so I was in that weird place of wanting to be like a lad, but then thinking, oh, you want money for that? No, I'd rather not spend the money on it. Can we not just drink at home?
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and I'm probably still a bit like that now, to be totally honest.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, I tell 8-year-old me, don't worry so much, mate. I tell 18-year-old me, don't be a dick, but also like say yes to a few things because it's not going to bankrupt you. You're going to
Yeah,
be all
yeah,
right, and even if you end up in your overdraft, you'll get out of it again. You'll
yeah,
climb
yeah,
back out.
yeah. Cool. Okay. All right. They've gone now. Those young, youthful nibbos have left the room.
Virile.
Virile. And slightly less virile, 80-year-old Knibbo is coming through the door.
He
Right
is going
before
to
you.
be chemically enhanced to be no less virile than 18-year-old.
So just before your Scampi and Chips arrives, 80-year-old you is coming through. Anything you want to ask, 80-year-old you?
I'm not going to ask him if he wants some of my scampi and chips. He can get his own. What do I not ask him? Do you know what? What I feel like I want to ask him is, look, what do I need to do to make you happy? Because I don't want him to be any other way other than happy. So yeah, I feel like I'd ask him, what do I need to do to make you happy? And the reason that question is because I engaged in a practice. Gosh, it must be about 4 years ago now, where I'd heard of this. I think it was a pandemic thing. I think I had it on Radio 1 in the pandemic, where you could write a letter to your younger self. And I wrote a letter to my younger self, but then I wrote a letter to my older self. And that guy, I think, was like 60, 65 around retirement age.
Yeah.
And I remember writing that letter. And I really hope I don't upset or offend anyone, but this podcast is all about authenticity and honesty. So I wrote that letter to my older self one evening. And actually, I used my phone, and I used that app on my phone where you can age yourself. So I aged myself and had that sat there and thought, like, I'm going to write to this guy. And I realized then I did not want that guy to be married to the woman that I was currently married to. And if I didn't want him to be married to that woman, I needed to leave her. It needed to be me in the here and the now.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
was if I didn't leave her, he was still going to be married to her when that letter kind of came to him. So I had to take a really big step, and I had to do something about that.
Yeah.
And so, but the reason for that is I want him to be happy. That's what I would ask 80-year-old me. Like, what do I need to do to make you happy?
Yeah.
And that comes back to that idea of connection, doesn't it? Of just need to connect with your past self, your future self, and realize what is it you need to do for those people in order to make things work for them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What do you think? Anything would spring to mind for 80-year-old you? And he said, "What do I need to do to make you happy?" What's 80-year-old saying?
What do I
to
think?
That?
What would 80-year-old me tell me to do to make him happy? I don't know. I think regret is a big thing. I think he'd say, like, play your hand, take your chance. I think I can't see whether 80-year-old me has got a partner or not. And obviously that's 36 years away from now. So I've got plenty of time to have a lasting long-term relationship, which is obviously a massive factor for a lot of people in their lives.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I expect he probably would like to be in a relationship. And I think for that to happen, I might need to be a bit more open and a bit less like looking at people going, no, because of this stupid reason. No, because of that stupid reason. No, because she's an Aries. No, because I want someone that lives 15 miles away or less, and she lives 15.5 miles away. I think for February 14th.
Yeah, I like the just the don't worry about regrets. Like play hand. Cool.
Shoot your shot. I think.
Okay. Well,
As a Liverpool fan, there used to be a player called Patrick Berger, and Milan Baros was kind of similar as well. And he'd get the ball kind of around the halfway line, and you think, I think he's looking to shoot it. And he don't. He can have it. And I really admired that about him. Like, he never thought, I can't have a shot from here. He was always like, I think it's probably on. So yeah, I think that's what I need to do to make him happy.
Nice. Well,
ding dong.
80-year-old Matt, can you get the door on your way out? So that's it. It's here. Your takeaway's here. You've made it.
That's me walking to the door.
How has been talking about all of this stuff, like feelings? How's that been this evening?
It's light and easy because actually we've been talking, and the subject of feelings has been part of it, and we've referenced feelings, but I don't feel like I've embarrassingly bared my soul, and that someone's going to be able to use what I've said to humiliate me or make me feel vulnerable. I just feel like we've had a normal conversation, actually feelings has been part of that.
We've just chatted. Cool. Right. Well, before I let you go and dig into your scampi and chip, we need some takeaways. What is?
Yeah, we do, don't we?
What has been either your key takeaway from tonight from this chat, or a couple of takeaways that you think actually, I think this would be a good bit of advice that somebody could maybe do tomorrow that would help their mental health.
Well, as you know, Brad, I got the notepad ready, and
there it is.
Can you see the detailed notes that I've made on tonight's episode?
Yep. Good.
Yep. So I've really gone to town on that. But now, what do I feel like the takeaway is? Do you know what? For me, I feel like the piece of advice that I would share kind of with myself and with other people is that whole idea about being proactive around your own mental health. Like, I think there's so many parallels between mental health and physical health. And I think that it is no good just wanting them to be better. I feel quite strongly that if I want my mental health to be better, I need to take steps to do that. And therefore, I need to recognize when it's not at its best then I need to take steps to nip that in the bud and stop it there and then, because it can build momentum. Like living where I am here, there's a lovely little walk. It takes about 35 minutes. So it's not a big walk in the slightest. But if I'm here and I'm thinking, I just feel a bit uncomfortable in my skin, then like I could loaf on the sofa and I could do nothing, and I could go on my phone and just doom scroll. And there's lots of things I could do, but there's that little voice in my head that says, be proactive, get out, go and do something now. And it's not a big thing. All I need to do is pull my shoes on and chuck a hoodie on and get out the door. Just get out. Because that little step, it stops that slide into a decline, and actually it can start you feeling way, way, way better. So yeah, my takeaway would be to be mindful of your own mental health and be proactive. Don't just expect it to get better because you want it to get better. Do something for it. Whatever it is, just do something for it.
Yeah, I like that. And during the episode, I like the phrase you used, which was to recognise and take action, which is exactly what you're talking about there. I think that's a real good one. Even if you can't pinpoint what it is, like actually you're just feeling a bit low, and you know it may be anger, it may be anxiety. You may not know, but just to recognise that something is not as good as it could be. And so actually you don't have to pinpoint it. If you can, it can be helpful, but you don't have to. But what action are you going to take that's positive going forwards? I think that's a great one. A couple of other bits that I wrote down is I like just the connections, and that could be part of the action that you're taking. You know, draw on your connections. You know, your friends, your family. You know, who are your go-to people? You know, you don't need to open up about everything unless you want to, but actually just to physically connect with somebody is great for producing serotonin, to go and have a positive interaction with somebody.
You know what? This is going to sound flippant, and maybe I'm kind of thinking out loud here. Maybe we do a February the 14th dating special for male mental health. But and I promise you, I'm not being flippant or like deliberately smutty. But that desire to physically connect with someone, I've had ill thought out hookups where I've just thought, I just want to connect physically with someone, not necessarily connect sexually. But there is no app that you can go on where you can get a hug, whereas there are apps you can go on and get a hookup. Tinder being the main one, where you can just think, I can just like charm someone and they'll be over and we'll hook up, and that will scratch that itch. But that's not necessarily the itch I've got. The itch I've got is just a physical connection with a person, and that's the nearest thing you can get to it. So I think that's kind of where a lot of that comes from. Yeah,
that's it. You started out early on talking about just letting go of frustration. I think that's and it's not an easy thing to do that, but you know, hanging on to frustration or anger or anything like that, it doesn't get you anywhere. Like being able to let go is a skill in itself. And I guess the last little point that I kind of wrote down was about the kind of, is it good enough for your kids? Would you accept it for your kids? And if you wouldn't, then why are you accepting it for yourself? I think that's also quite a nice point that you touched on there. So loads of really good ones. Matt, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on as a guest, not just as a host. Thanks for just talking so openly about stuff. As always, lots of good advice. And I know that people listening will hopefully have, you know, some ideas and some things that they can take away that they can start doing. And as we always say at the end of the show, then, you know, if you have listened to this and something's resonated and you want to share, then get in touch with us on social media, drop us a message, or just put your thoughts out there. We'd love to hear from you.